Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kevin Lee Social. Thank you for tuning in. What initially began as an eight-part series interviewing entrepreneurs to share and inspire how they've successfully pivoted during COVID-19, I have decided not only to continue this series, but also to expand on the scope to understand and learn about people's craft, philosophy, the challenges they face in the industry, and their favorite failures that have helped shape them to become who they are today. By going deeper and understanding different thought leaders, businesses, and industries, the idea is to help cross-pollinate ideas applicable in your life and inspire action in this new norm we live in. I hope you enjoy the show. Thank you. Today we have Danielle Sabrina. She is a celebrity publicist and the founder of Tribe Builder Media, an award-winning boutique PR firm. Before founding her agency, she started her career on Wall Street at just 19 years old, becoming one of the youngest traders in the industry. Known for her media and brand strategy, her results-oriented reputation through the years has gained the trust of many high-profile CEOs, professional athletes, and celebrities, making her one of the most sought-after brand and media strategists. Additionally, she was named Female Entrepreneur of the Year, CIO's Top 20 Female Entrepreneur to Follow, and Entrepreneur Magazine's Expert Contributor. Everyone, please help me welcome Danielle. Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much for making the time from LA. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing so good. Thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate you having me on.
It's an honor, and I first came across your profile on our Trends group that we're both a part of, and I thought I have to hear more of your story and definitely have to share this. Danielle, could we please start with you sharing with us a bit about your story from your upbringing to building Tribe Builder Media?
Sure. So I dropped out of high school and I was a teen mom. Prior to that, I was constantly delinquent, in and out of group homes. I was 16 when I ended up dropping out of high school and got pregnant shortly after. And then I went on to become one of the youngest traders on Wall Street when I was 19. I passed my Series 7, which at the time was the third hardest exam in the United States. And that's what really gave me the confidence to go out and achieve anything, because the exam was so hard and there was other people who took it that had graduated from definitely college, but a lot of them Ivy League schools, and a couple of them didn't pass. So when that happened and I passed, then I was like, okay, no one's going to tell me anything. Like, it's on.
I could only imagine being 16 and then having children and then going on and pushing through as much as you can. What was it like being one of the youngest traders on Wall Street when you were only 19, especially in what I assume a very male-dominated arena?
So no one knew I was 19. I think that fact just was under the radar. I don't think anybody really ever thought that, and whoever was people when they were doing my paperwork, I don't think ever noticed, I would think, or because I think if they did, they definitely probably would have said something, because even when we would go out for drink, like happy hour drinks, I would go to the bar first. So I would like rush to get to the bar first, and I would order some silly, like some drink that would make me sound older. So I would go in and say something like, do you have any 97 Cabernets? Or I'd like order like something. And I always dressed like I shopped at this store at the time, Ann Taylor. I don't even know if they still have Ann Taylor's, but it was like a professional women's clothing store.
Yeah.
So I always looked very professional, which helped make me look older. And I would come in with like my briefcase to the bar, because that was really the only time it ever could potentially get brought up, because I wasn't old enough to go out yet. But all of, like the partners and we, that we're going out to get drinks, and I certainly can't be like, well, I can't go, I'm 21 yet. Other than that, the one side of it is good that like when you pass your licensing exams, it does equal the playing field a little bit, or level it, I guess, a little bit, because you can't charm your way into passing the exam. You can't connect your way into passing the exam. So that was good. It definitely, for sure, being in a male-dominated industry, it has its own sets of challenges, and you're never really taken as seriously, I think, as some of your male counterparts in the financial space. as I moved up with my corporate career, I definitely had superiors at times that I felt prohibited my growth.
Mm.
And then I would just leave. I never really had any sense of like loyalty to any of the jobs. That sounds horrible, but I was like, if this isn't going to give me the path, like I've worked too hard, so I'll just go and get another job. I'll leave. So that was really my like go-to. If I felt like I wasn't being heard, or especially if I felt like I was being stopped from growth, then I was like, okay, I'm done.
It seems you have a very strong growth mindset and always learning and growing, connecting.
Thanks. Oh, I hope so. I think we all need to be growing. If we're not growing, that's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And so you're going from your transition from Wall Street, and then if I'm understanding correctly, the timeline went from Wall Street, exams, and then how did Try Builder Media come into play?
In between working in finance, I decided to leave and open up boutique retail cosmetic stores. Why? In hindsight, I don't really know why I did that, because I didn't have a background really in retail other than my first job. And that didn't go well. So I don't know why I wanted to go into retail again. But at the time, I was very into like skincare and cosmetics and just all the girly stuff. So I thought this is perfect. Because I definitely wanted to do something on my own, because I did see that I consistently hit ceilings. I've always grown very fast in whatever I'm doing. So I can grow companies very quickly. I've grown my own very quickly. If I'm not in charge of that growth, or if I don't have unlimited like space to do that, and sometimes I go about it in an unorthodox way, that's hard for me to explain because it comes so intuitively and naturally for me, that if that's not my own company, that's really hard for someone else as another founder to place their like trust in that. So I do understand why sometimes it's like you want your your employees to grow, but then it might be scary. And then there was times where I had grown companies that's what the president or the CEO or the board members said that they, wanted, but then it comes down to it and like the growth was a little too fast for them. And it was scary for them, because that goes into like mindset beliefs and stuff like that. So yeah, had those stores. I ended up going through a really terrible divorce. And in that process, I ended up losing the stores, and I lost everything. I had to file bankruptcy. I ended up in like this horrible, shitty apartment that I was worse off than I was when I was pregnant for my first daughter. Then that was not a good place to be. That was a horrible feeling. And I couldn't go back into doing what I was doing in the stock, being a stockbroker, because my credit was so bad from my bankruptcy.
Yep.
And you have to have good credit. You can't that's like an SEC regulation.
Yep.
There's something that you can't it's a problem. You can't do that. So I was like, I didn't know what to do, because that was my only experience, and I also didn't want to go back. I didn't have any real desire to. It felt like that's the last thing I wanted to do, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided, when I got approved for my first credit card after my bankruptcy, it was like a $300 limit. Thank you, Capital One. I'm still very loyal to them to this day. I bought like a WordPress theme and hosting for the year, and I watched YouTube videos and figured out how to build a website. I went to Colorado and had a photo shoot with a friend of mine. We did our own photos together, and I just launched my personal brand, and I launched myself as a business intuitive, because that was the one common denominator in anything, in any of my success that I've had, is it's always come very intuitively. I just know what it needs to be done. I know how to get there, but it's always been a process that's really difficult for me to explain or articulate in any type of blueprint, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So not knowing what that was or what I would do, I knew that I didn't want to, or it wasn't maybe ready yet to go into full-blown consulting for the Big Four or anything like that, because that comes with another set of pressure that I knew with the launch of this company that I was not going to, or my own brand, like I wanted to build something that would be very sustainable for me long term, no matter what direction my life took. So I definitely wanted to start small and make sure my foundation was stable and solid and build from there. Yeah, I launched as a business intuitive. Then I ended up, and that was wonderful. Then it got to the point where I didn't have time to work one-on-one with people anymore. And then I started managing brands and building the personal brands of others. And then that's when I started working with celebrities and athletes, like NBA players and NFL players. They would come to me and I would build their brands for them and what they were going to be doing with their career and their vision off the field or off the court. And also just with solopreneurs, everyone really. And it was before personal branding was like common. Like a lot of people didn't understand it. When I first launched my own brand, people thought it was like a pyramid scheme. Like, what the heck? Like, what does that even have to do with like my own brand? But that's how like it just wasn't understood. And then I was getting those clients into publications and I would be arguing with the editors and I would get so passionate about it. And I was like, because they didn't understand personal branding and they didn't understand the power of it. And they're like, this isn't a thing. And I'm like, yes, it is. Like, yes, it is. You guys are going to be writing about this. You're probably going to have an entire column dedicated, an entire vertical and beat dedicated to this in the future. So learning how to do that and develop thought leadership and work with the media, I like completely fell in love with that. It was just such a great lane for me to be in because it was something I was already leveraging. I just didn't know it was like called PR. So once I figured out it was PR, then that morphed into an agency organically. It just grew on its own. And then like most agencies do, you start off like I was just myself and I'm like a contractor. Then you might hire one or two people, then you grow, then you get bigger accounts. And then what also served me really well was when I was in the finance industry, I did a lot in the IPO space.
Yeah.
So I knew how to market companies before they were going to IPO. And I also knew the fundraising rounds and what investors would look for and what shareholders would look for as far as media. So I was already doing this. I just didn't know it was like, I didn't identify it as like PR, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was able to, the agency I think grew quickly as well because we work with a lot of companies right before they're going to IPO and then obviously after they're public as well.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you. Your story, Danny, it was vulnerable and I appreciate you opening up and sharing all about the details. And congratulations on your success. You deserve every bit of it. You've powered through. You've kept your head down, you've worked on it, and you've kept trialing, and your intuition has led you to where you are now.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like I have a long way to go still.
Before I ask anything about PR and branding for businesses, I wanted to hone in just a little bit more about what is your craft, which is your superpower and your intuition. I know that you mentioned that there's no blueprint or any way to really put it down, but for you, is it something? Is it more of a gut feeling? Or if you can just describe a bit more about how your intuition internal channel works.
I would say it's just the way I connect the dots and my feeling about things for sure, and how like a messaging will be received. I think part of my own like survival in life has been figuring out how to make something happen for myself. So I feel like my brain has had a lot of exercise on looking at every different possible angle and how long it would take to get there and what happens over here and what will move this, because that's really how I that's how I got an opportunity in the first place to take my Series 7. That's how I've gotten to where I am today, is taking that step back and really observing what's going on, who's saying, and then mixed with my own feelings about it. I think people they just dismiss or they're not connected. And when I did a lot of healing work after my divorce, and that I think helped me get more in tune with my own feelings. So even when my gut instincts were right, they were often also like it was hard to get there, versus like now it's a really easy process because I can feel my way into it, and things materialize very quickly for me because I'm not doing anything like contradictory to sabotage that.
Yes.
I think being able to help people also identify within themselves what it is that they want to be known for, or what they're trying to say, and what blocks there might be around that, because sometimes it's also an energy shift. So someone might not be getting the momentum they need, not because their messaging is off, but there could be something internally going on, and they're giving that off, and that's real. Like, that energy is so real, and people will feel that, and they'll feel that online, in person. It just comes through. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
Absolutely does. And there's a whole lot more to unpack there, but maybe we'll revisit later.
Sure.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about if you could share your thoughts on the importance of PR and personal branding for people or businesses. I don't, in my part of the world anyway, in Australia, PR and branding is always reserved for, they think, celebrities, or they think big businesses. I don't think they understand how important it is for even smaller businesses or someone who's stepping out to start something up. I'd love for you to share some light on that.
It's so important. It's like probably one of the most important things you have to have a solid business for sure. And outside of you being able to fulfill your promises that you make to clients or customers, so let's just assume that's all set. If you're going to work hard to create anything, why wouldn't your brand is so important? Like, it will pick up its own momentum if you put the time and energy into it and you work with the right people. So if you're going to be working anyway and building anyway, why not make it easier for yourself? Why not build something that will give you something back?
Yeah.
And it doesn't start with a logo. That's the least and last of my concerns when anybody is talking about branding. It starts really like and I'm not a graphic designer, so I can only speak to so much of this, but a lot of times I see branding approached as, okay, who is your target audience? What's your avatar? Let's put these logo ideas together. What colors do you resonate with? All this stuff. And those things never really tie together as well as they could most of the time. There are some super dope branding agencies out there that are like full-blown creative agencies that 100% can do that. But usually the emerging entrepreneur or a small to medium-sized company, they might not be able to afford that because those agencies are like 1 to the 6 figures just for branding.
Yeah.
But as an individual or a small business owner, start with photos and really lay out the creative direction of your photos. And you need to work with a photographer that understands lifestyle photography and brand photography. And you should be able to not give creative control completely over to the photographer unless they've already created brands, because it goes beyond just a headshot. It goes beyond a team photo. These images need to be used as collateral for things like ebooks and ads and social media posts. So starting there, and then focus on the experience you want your client to have or your customer, and start there. Like, what kind of experience do you want them to have when they come across you? Is it accessible? Is it modern? Is it spiritual? Is it biohacking? What kind of experience? And think about that. And if you're not a very creative person, like if you're not constantly complimented on like maybe the design of your home or like just general aesthetic, then you might want a second set of eyes.
Yeah.
And also think about it for each country. If we're talking international, colors, fonts, layouts that resonate in Asia may not resonate the same in the US. In fact, it could give the opposite. So you want to think of that. There's a lot of different things that go into making sure you have your online presence and your brand in the right place before you then go to PR, because PR is so powerful if you have the right things in place, which is your brand and your photography and just a funnel, a way to, because PR is so top of the funnel. It's meant to give you exposure. And some of the PR that you get, there's so many different types, but it could be a podcast, it could be getting into a magazine or on TV, might result in new customers or clients. Or sometimes it's more like sometimes big top tiers, like getting into Forbes, doesn't always result in getting new clients, but it gives you a lot of external validation, and you can create that and use that and repurpose that content.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I had my first taste of PR work this year. Part of my business portfolio is restaurants, and we recently did a rebrand this year, and it's my first time using a PR company, and I thought the PR company really took us three next levels. It just kept going, and it was amazing how quickly they produced results for even a small restaurant business. And it was amazing working with them, and I would definitely continue working with them in the new year, because we're opening up our second one in March, so we start building in January. And they've really been able to take the messaging, and they've pushed it out, and they've curated, they've given us ideas. That combined with marketing, like you said, great photography work to give them the content and to help them push it out, has worked absolute wonders. And that's why I was so fascinated to connect with you, Danielle, because you're a master of your work and crafts. I had to hear more about it from you and share this message to other people that are looking to get that message out. Like you said, if you've worked so hard to curate something, and of course you believe in your product or service, you have to find ways to get it out there, and PR is definitely one of them.
Yeah, it's great. It can definitely really change an entire business overnight. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why I love it.
And it must get you so excited as well, because you get to connect with people on such a personal but also business level, where you can understand their thinking and different products and services, and understanding where they want to take it, and try to really get the message behind it, as I've found connecting with the PR group that I was working with earlier this year.
Yeah, it definitely satisfies my need for wanting to be involved in a lot of projects. I think every entrepreneur struggles with that.
Yes.
There's always a venture you want to get involved in and start and do. So PR definitely fulfills that for me, because I do get to get involved in different businesses and help launch them, which is my favorite part, that's why I'm ever interested in starting new ventures, is that startup part. So yeah, luckily, I have that outlet, because otherwise I can only imagine.
Fear of missing out is real. How has COVID affected your work since, and how have you worked to maneuver this current landscape with your business?
The only thing I really feel like we've been impacted with was, and I feel like I don't even like speaking on this because we really weren't impacted that much, was just our office location in LA where I'm based. So personally, maybe I was a little affected. I used to live on the beach in LA, and then I decided to move to a house that has an office so that I can work from home, and I can also have my team that has pretty much everyone is over in LA now since the pandemic, because nobody wants to be in New York. So other than that, yeah, we've just focused on trying to help people, honestly, because since we weren't impacted as much as restaurant owners and businesses like that, the only thing we can do is focus on helping, for sure.
Yeah. Have you found a lot of people start up a lot of online businesses or anything like that?
From what I understand, they are. I have not, it hasn't all of a sudden been boom, all these new businesses are flooding in. And also that's maybe not the time for PR. So even if they were, they probably wouldn't even get to me yet to even look at them. They probably would have already spoke to someone on my team, because that's not always like the right time for PRs. If you're just like gonna just, you have to really want to invest in PR because it's a long-term strategy. So
for sure. Just going back to your story, you mentioned before that you had your first daughter at 16. And how many do you have?
When I was 16. I have 2 daughters, and I had them by the time I was 19. So I was pregnant when I was 17.
Yes. And with your daughters now, what are some key lessons you try to instill within them?
So 2 things: don't chase money because it will come, and pursue people don't know what their passion is yet. I mean, I'm pivoting all the time myself. Like, I'm passionate about different things all the time. So I think telling people like, oh, pursue your passion. I think if most people identified what their passion was exactly, they probably would already be doing that. But many times, like, we're not given the space, or we don't have the space to just freely experience whatever maybe gives us joy. So we don't always know what gives us joy. That is just us, just for us, outside of, oh, my family gives me joy. Obviously, I know I didn't. I know a lot of other people didn't either. Is what are you really passionate about? And that's a process. So I just encourage my kids to explore. Just try things. Take a class if you want to, and don't worry about it. If you don't like it, don't stop going.
Yeah.
Who cares? Don't worry about having to finish. Just do whatever you want. Do what feels good. You'll figure it out. And the other thing is, live however you want to live. Like, literally. Do whatever you want to do. Experience whatever you want to experience. Don't worry about what other people are going to think about it. Don't worry about what I'm going to think about it. Don't worry about anything. It's all going to be fine. Everything will be fine. So have fun. Do what you want to do. And just live however you want. Period. Like, it's your life. So yeah, those 2 things. Like, that's my gift I want to give them.
Your daughters are very lucky to have such an amazing mother like yourself, who's open to guiding them and allowing them and giving them the freedom to do what they want and encouraging them to. Good on you, Danielle.
Thanks. It's easier said than done. It's hard. They're adults now, so it's a lot easier, but it definitely was challenging when they were younger, and other family members maybe didn't agree. Definitely other parents didn't agree with my philosophy in general. So it was definitely pretty rocky at times.
I can imagine. Danielle, anyone that comes across your page can see your work has been shortlisted and taken many awards. I'm sure it hasn't always been this way. Do you have a favorite failure that has set you up for later success?
Maybe not failure, but my ability to make money, to know that no matter what, like, I have so many different skill sets and I know how to monetize them, that my ability to make short money, like quick money, really gives me, I've never needed to utilize that, but like knowing that I could gives me a lot of confidence to take more risk.
Yeah.
And also just takes a lot of pressure off me that I would maybe put on myself, as we just do, I think, as like founders of company. Like, we're just all of a sudden, be like, oh, are we going to be okay? And it's like, literally everything is telling you it is. And then you have to like stop and be like, okay, this is just some weird old belief that didn't get released. Let me release this real quick. But I would say probably that is really probably that, I would say.
Are you excited about any upcoming projects in 2021? It's already the end of the year as we record this.
I'm like so blessed to be involved in so many different cool projects, from ones that have impact to like cutting edge technology. I don't even think I could pick one, honestly. There's just I work with so many creatives and so many brilliant people that I'm at awe with them and their abilities. So I'm always excited to be involved in anything that's new, anything that's like, or just someone that's just like living their life and just going out and like doing cool shit, I like. So like that excites me.
Such a great position to be in, to be surrounded by inspiring people, and that people are like, I want to be a part of that and see that growth go.
Yes.
As we're reaching the tail end of the interview, I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Not so much quick questions. They can be as long as short as you want. Starting with, do you have any morning or evening routines that you stick by?
No, not really, because I tend to just float through my day. Like, I know that sounds like it's just my personality. It's the way I've always been. I can't really stick to a routine. It drains me. Mm-hmm. Lately in the morning, I jump on Clubhouse and I hang out there for an hour or so, just listening to the different conversations on there. I find it like super interesting. But other than that, no, I don't have any
particular routines.
My goal of making sure I'm up by a certain time, and that's it.
Do you have a favorite book that you'd recommend or that you gift most often?
I have a few that I've read like a couple of times that I really like, and they're all over the place. I'm happy to share them with you if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Okay. Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit by Stephen Pressfield. Ask and It Is Given by Abraham Hicks. Jeff Walker's Launch. Think and Grow Rich, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, that's just such a classic. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Another just classic. Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Dr. Wayne Dyer. I Can't Make This Shit Up by Kevin Hart. And The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Wow. Great selection there.
Thanks. Those are just like, I read all that. I'm always reading like 5 or 6 books at a time. But those ones are ones that I've read more than once.
Wow. 5 or 6 books at a time. Good, Danielle.
I have books next to my nightstand. I'm on my like Kindle. I have Audible. Like, I'm always like, you can't get through like a movie in an hour or two.
Yeah. Are there any new beliefs or behaviors that have had a positive impact in your life in the recent years?
I'm like super into NET therapy lately, and that has been really cool. And I don't know if you know a lot about that, but
so
it's basically
T therapy?
NET.
Yep.
So it's basically going into your deep subconscious and releasing things that you didn't even know were an issue. So I see this practitioner in Los Angeles she is a doctor that practices like holistic health all the way around. So on a crazy supplement regimen, plus the NET. So you could be like foggy, just off, and it can be traced back to something that happened like way in your childhood that you don't even remember, that is able to be identified through muscle testing. So it's not like any type of talk therapy or anything like that. It's all muscle testing. So she can test like if your organs are weak, anything, an illness, anything, and you can work with her to release them. And that has taken my life to a new height. So I'm so grateful for that in her.
Fascinating. I'd like to learn more about that. Does she do more of the ring? Is it the ring muscle test, or is it more of a like push down on the hand? What type of muscle test does she do?
The hand, and I'm not sure about maybe the ring. I don't really pay attention. She's doing it, because I'm always like, I can't believe that. It's just so fascinating to me that she's an older lady, like I think maybe in her 70s. So she's not like super strong, and it's crazy to me how weak my muscles will go over certain things. Like my arm just like flops down. And so I'm like paying attention to that, because it's just so bizarre. It's such a crazy experience.
Yeah, I think it's such a fascinating area of study. You're testing your beliefs, right? For example, you'd ask a question and then they'll push down on your hand, and if it aligns with you, you have more strength or something. And then they ask you something else, a different question, and if it doesn't align with you or you don't believe it, and then you lose that strength.
And she can even take it even further and identify like at what point in your life did that happen? Did that belief happen? And work with you to release it through like the release techniques. Wow. Yeah, she does it. Her name is Dr. Rain, and she's in Los Angeles. Her work and the studies that she does within her medical community are remarkable. The MRIs that are done that show like the brain activity after NET therapy is just insane. It's incredible. And I also have noticed, and my whole family's on it. We all, it's probably like literally my biggest expense too. It's like between all of our supplements and like.
But it's that we've all got all these beliefs that we have, because as well, when we grow up, we have all these things that kind of get pushed onto us in our subconscious, and it's not that we actually have a choice at that age, and we don't know what's going on, and there can be so many things that are holding us back from what we're really able to do, and a lot of us don't know how to, aren't even aware of it, let alone access it and release it. Because
you really would have no way of knowing, like, how are you going to know that something happened when you were 2 that is actually impacting something that you think is happening in your business? Like, you're not going to know that unless you're working with someone.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, thank you for sharing that. I'll definitely have to get some details of you and share it with the audience as well.
Yeah.
And final 2 questions. If you could only send one single line of SMS text to yourself 5 years ago, what would it be?
Probably the same one I would send to myself now. And that's, if we don't convert energy into action, that energy becomes a drug.
That's a great one. I've never heard of that one. Great. Thank you. I've written that down.
Right? Yeah, I have it in my calendar. I write it down every day, because that can be like, I can fall into that trap.
Yeah. And finally, how can people reach out or learn more about you, Danielle?
If you want to, I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn, Twitter sometimes. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I love for people to go through Entrepreneur Magazine, because I'm their expert. So you can book one-on-one sessions with me, because I don't work with people one-on-one through my agency. And those sessions, the proceeds that I get from them, I donate to whatever organization that we're working with at the time. It's best of both. You get to have PR advice or entrepreneurship advice, or really whatever you want, and then you're helping other people too. So
incredible. I will definitely have all the links in the show notes for everyone to access. Thank you so much for your time all the way from LA. I really appreciate it. I've learned so much, and I can't wait to share this with the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled KEVINLY. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.